Dragon Trail Seaside was the track for Daily Race C this week, and you probably know why this track is so famous about, and it's the dead chicane. So that's exactly why the McLaren was the best car for this week's Daily Race C. Why? Because we also had setups, and you can set up the car that it becomes even more stable through the dead chicane. And of course, if you probably know it, or if you've probably been watching me for a while, you probably know that you need a stable car through the dead chicane, otherwise it's not going to work. It simply doesn't work. So we had setups this week, and the McLaren was the best car for the obvious reasons. It was good in the straight line, it was kind of good in the corners, and it was really stable. And with the setup you can make it a turn even better than it used to be. I tried a couple of cars this week as well. I tried the GR Supra, the McLaren, and then Chris sent me a message. And then I realized that Lambo could be a good car as well. I never tried that car in this track. I never thought it was going to be even any special. I thought it was going to be one of those cars that are like, meh, it can work, but definitely not at the top. So I decided to try it, and my first couple of minutes with this car, and I was already down into the 44s, which is crazy when you think about it. When I never driven this car before in the circuit, and all of a sudden I'm doing my fastest lap times. So I decided to take it into a race. So in my first race with this car, I got down into 145.3. And then I realized this car has some serious potential. I was trying to get close to Damien, but unfortunately he was too quick for me. But the lap times, even when I look at the lap times, they were 145.5, 145.3. And then I realized that even if you go to the online leaderboards, if you go to the online qualifiers, only 200 people in the world actually managed to get that time in the world, in the qualifying. So we are not even talking about the tire wear or fuel consumption. And of course, the car was heavier because it has, well, a lot more fuel on board. And the tires, well, they were worn out. And we were still able to do 145s, which when you think about it, it's pretty crazy. So I decided to do a couple more races, and the lap times once again were becoming better and better and better. I did some setup tweaks, and I really tried to make this car as stable as possible. So there is one little thing that you should know about this car is that, well, it's quite oversteery in a couple of turns. So in tight turns, when you need to slow down the car, it becomes very understeery because it's a four-wheel drive car, and you need to adapt your style to it. You definitely need to know how to work with this car because it's a little bit different than the McLaren or any other car. And this is exactly what I've done. So the car was kind of unstable under braking, which I tried to avoid. And the reason is that I was trail braking into the corner too much. Whenever I was going into the last corner, I was trail braking all the way down to the apex. And then I realized that the car is sliding too much. How to avoid it? So you basically need to start braking in the straight line with minimal inputs of your steering wheel, and then when you try to turn in more, you just simply release the brakes and the car will become stable. It was really difficult at the beginning, but somehow I managed to get it to work. And it was actually quite surprisingly well. I couldn't believe that the car was so good through the last corner if I just lift and coast. And one of the most interesting points is, as usual, the dead chicane. I tried to adjust my style, and then I realized that I had to lift before I turn into the corner. Otherwise, the car is just starting to understeer too much, and then if you just miss the first part of the chicane, you are done. And this is exactly what happened to a couple of guys in front of me. And it was, well, it's good when you're behind, but then again, if you're the guy who's crashing into the chicane, it's not exactly the best. And I also realized that with a couple of tweaks, I really need to work on releasing the brakes and making the car turn on its own. So basically just lift and coast and then starting to accelerate on the curb to get the rotation into the corner, which took me some time. And I really started to develop this style of coasting and basically accelerating onto the curb to make this car as stable as possible. Even when I was going through the middle section of the track, the car was almost always going sideways, which actually was a good thing because you need rotation in that corner, and you also need to clip the inside of that curb because you just simply get more rotation. But if you carry too much speed and you get too much rotation, it's simply not going to work. So You just have to be on the edge of the track, and you have to be on the edge of this car to actually make it to work. That's why it was so difficult at the beginning, because I was trying to implement the same style of driving as I was implementing with the McLaren 650S, and it simply wasn't possible. So with the McLaren, you simply have to trail brake into the corner, you need to make the car turn in better, and you need to trail brake a lot into a couple of these turns. And of course, we don't even need to mention the shifting points, which were completely different. And of course, the setups were completely different. And of course, if you want setups, you can go down there in the description. I try to upload each week. So we have like a big library of setups now. And it will most likely expand in the future. And of course, I followed this one with a couple of more races, and I realized that I was actually winning with this car. And it was, well, I'm not gonna say it was easy, definitely wasn't easy, but it was a proper win with a huge lead over the second guys. No one else can follow me in those technical sections of the circuit, even though the Dutch chicane was a little bit of, I'm not gonna say it, but it was difficult. I did some tweaks, I kind of adjusted my driving style, and this is exactly what helped me later. And this is what I've done later. I tried to get the better qualifying lap time, and I really tried to get into the top 10. So after all of this, after adjusting my style, after adjusting all of those things and kind of implementing that on the track with this car, I realized that sometimes you need to brake earlier to make the car turn in better. And of course, take the better line out of the whole section and prioritize exits with this car. And that's exactly what I've done in the first corner. I was actually watching Winth, the guy who was holding the world record at that point, and he was braking so much earlier than I was braking. It was maybe like 50 meters before. Well, I started to get so much more speed into the first section that it was unbelievable. And all of a sudden, I found myself into 44.6s, 44.7s. Which again led to me getting up to 44.4, which is at that point it was top 5 in the world. The car started to work. I started realizing what were my mistakes and what exactly do I need to change in order to get a top 10 result. And now when I think about it, you just need to adapt your style. You need to work with a specific car in a specific way. If you're trying to implement the same style of driving and the same things for every single car in the game, it's not going to work. Every car has its own specific things that actually work. It's supposed to be like that. You're supposed to learn the car and drive it in a different way. So every car needs to be driven in a different way. And this kind of helped me to realize that I need to prioritize exits with this car, and I definitely need to abuse the curbs, and of course I need to get off the brakes. And on top of that, braking actually a lot earlier helped. And this is exactly what I do in my online course, which you can go check out in the link down in the description. I try to help you understand what each car is special and how you can extract the maximum potential out of each car, and what exactly you need to know about driving in Gran Turismo and how you can make yourself quicker. And once again, guys, thank you for watching this video. And if you found this video useful, please make sure that you hit that like down below, and well, think about subscribing to the channel as well. So guys, until the next time, bye.